Hello, fellow pro wrestling fans. My name is Freddie Fredrickson. We are back, State of Pro Wrestling, live on YouTube tonight. MAW Grand Slam 5. We're going to do one last little rewind here at 6 with MAW. Video producer here with us tonight. Chavo, how you doing?
I'm doing great, brother. I really appreciate you taking the time to have me out here. I'm representing the MAW production crew, and
Woo!
not directly representing, but hopefully bringing appreciation and awareness just to the wrestling production community in general. Hey, got the black and red on.
Yeah, I'm excited. Excited to
Yeah,
talk to you tonight, man.
yeah. Actually, it worked out really good. I didn't. I was just told the other day that we were going to be premiering Grand Slam tonight, and I was like, because I'm responsible for uploading the videos as well. So I was like, cool, all right. And I didn't even think about it until this morning. I'm just like, oh yeah, today's the sit down with State of Pro Wrestling. I was like, oh, and it premieres at 6, or sorry, at 7, right? So I was like, cool.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a good hype. So here, let me play around with my buttons here.
Okay.
MAW Grand Slam 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. So yeah, sorry, I like playing with all these mixing toys and stuff. If you can already
Absolutely do it. Have fun.
if you can already tell from from the work I do with MAW. So sorry, yeah. Thank you. I'm doing
We're all
well.
about
Was a
creative.
long it was a long answer to your question. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Hey, dude, give that. That's awesome. Great to hear.
That's right. I got the little ones, but I'll give you 2. That'll count.
Grateful to have you here tonight. Talking MAW Grand Slam 5 Rewind. Yeah, it's great that everything lined up like that. We ended up setting this up by chance tonight. Ended up having Andrew on at 5. And you, we had this lined up. I've been kind of doing these MAW Rewind flashbacks. We did one with the fans. Got 2.5 hours of content on the last one. Yeah, it's just been a great relationship with Grand Slam, having the all access through MAW at Grand Slam, and all the little clips and everything
Yeah, I
we
saw
were able
that.
to capture.
I mean, I saw y'all, you and Jaron releasing that schedule, and I'm like, whoa, they're just
Yeah,
kicking
it's been
ass.
very
They're kicking
cool.
ass,
Jaren's
man.
knocked it out. And yeah, looking to really build it up. And you look at all the sister stations and different contributors we're looking to bring in the next year and really step our game up. And I've always been grateful for MAW and everything, all the opportunities that they've given us from the beginning really helped inspire us and helped us climb along the way. So yeah, it was really fitting to be there at the biggest event to finally have all access. Sorry to get in the way a couple times of the actual professional shot.
No, you're
I'm working
good.
on it.
You're
I'm
good.
working on
Actually, looking back at the footage, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was at the time. Oh, oh,
it.
here's my kiddo.
Oh, there we go. The
Se las quiero.
future.
Yeah, what's up, bud?
How you doing?
Sure, I should double check with your mama, but I'm sure it'll be okay. Hey.
He said, "Grab
All
me
right.
some pizza."
I know, right? No, he already had his pizza. He's like, I'm watching
We
TV. I was like,
better
good. I
save
go,
that for the here's the premiere MAW Grand Slam tonight. MAW Live
there
YouTube
you
channel.
go.
Excited to see it, man. What a great lineup it was.
Dude,
Huge
it
3 hours
was
full of main events.
9
3
matches.
hours full of a meet and greet. What were some of your favorite memories from that night?
Oh man. Honestly, it's hard to choose just because there's so much going on. So being there, so having to be there the night before to help set up and just kind of getting an idea of what the venue looks like. Especially we were cutting live, so I was like, okay,
Okay.
how much cable do I have to run for my cameras? Because that's super important, right? Um, and then the day of, just go, 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 go. That's all it is. Set up. Oh, this doesn't work. All right, let's figure it out. Da, da, da. So, and then having to direct the whole show, right? So from beginning to end, as soon as it
Wow.
starts. So there's very little time to sit there and kind of like, right, like take it in, like really take it in. But I'd say if anything, the closest it got was definitely the ladder match,
Okay.
uh, Avalon and Masato, and then of course Sierra and Aja Kong. So those were definitely 3 matches that I remember just kind of like, especially the ladder match. That's probably one of the first times that I've actually had my heart and I'm just like, man, I'm worried for these guys. They're I know they're safe. I know they're awesome. They're super athletic. Like all 4 of them, they can hold it down. But you see, once it starts escalating, and escalate, and you're like, oh man, like I'm genuinely like, part of me is excited. I'm not gonna lie, because I was like, oh man, we make an awesome visual, but also not at the cost of somebody getting hurt either. Like, but those are definitely some three highlight matches. But yeah, it's hard to really pinpoint, okay, what part of the event, because it was all. I mean, you were there. It was loud, even with headsets on. I was, sitting there. I have commentators in my ears. I'm also directing the cameraman at the same time. Um, it was still loud. Like, mind you, part of it is the microphones that they have on, and I had some of the audio feed from the video in my mix as well. But there was definitely times where I had to, kind of take them off, and I was like, no, it really is that loud. It was crazy, man. What about you? I mean, I know I saw you kinda roaming back behind me a few times, and or not behind me necessarily, but, like, because we had that back, kinda walkway between, the backstage and the actual stage. So how was your vantage point?
It was a dream, man. It was everything that I beyond what I would have hoped it would. It was like we were going into it. We're like, this is like Game 7 for us. Like this is a Super Bowl. Like, and then to have that access, and at first walking in there and seeing the whole setup too, the stage entrance, bigger than they ever do. This they really did it huge. It's funny because I went there with my stagehand friend, and I was like, "Oh, we should have showed up early. We could have helped them set up and stuff." But
Well,
yeah, it was cool to see that grand stage. And then one of my goals going into, I'm a huge fan of wrestling with unicorns and all the clips and everything he's done social
mhm.
media wise, or they've done. And yeah, just seeing the cool like behind the scenes shots was, when the wrestlers walk out through that curtain like that, or just a few moments backstage, catching like Rampage and Earl Hebner sharing a word, and seeing somebody like a moment like that with Earl Hebner still showing support. He doesn't have to care about any of these local indie shows that he goes out to, but that he does, that he has a huge heart. He sat there backstage and really chopped it up with anybody that wanted to chop it up with him. Like, it was just
Yeah, I
like,
didn't
wow, man, to sit under a tree like that. And I didn't get to talk to him very much, but yeah, I was
same
just super
here. Shook
surfing
his
around.
hand.
Nice,
And
nice, yeah.
definitely, like, the one thing I've definitely had the pleasure of meeting a lot of these legends that they bring out for the meet and greets, and sometimes they'll even do some in-ring work, but it's really hard for me to, like, communicate anything meaningful and thoughtful, because you really, especially, like I said, I'm go, 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 go the whole event, so it's very few times where I can sit there and, like, kinda BS with them. So the one thing I consistently say, because it's really the only thing I can kinda think at the time, is thank you, right? Thank you for the years of your of entertainment. It's kind of a variation of that, because that's really all I can say, man. It's like, just thank you. Like, you all have provided so much entertainment, inspiration, and motivation to be a part of this crazy world that's professional wrestling.
Absolutely. A lot of those legends, from the past, in the 80s, 90s, or wherever they're from. Yeah, it's very cool seeing them, especially the influence that they've had on us. I had the chance to meet Bobby Heenan, shortly before he passed, and God, I had all these things. This whole speech, I was gonna give him a letter, and do like this pen pal segment, and the only thing I could do when I seen him was just like, thank you for everything, and then really, yeah, that is, that inspiration. What got us all into it was them, and seeing them uh, inspire us into this. What were some of your inspirations, or to get into not only just video, but wrestling, doing production, and everything that you do video wise?
Well, it was a kind of a marriage of two loves, right? I've always loved production and music and video. My old man and a lot of my uncles are musicians, so music's always been a big part of
All
my
right.
life, right? Even since I was a kid. Same with TV and film. I essentially grew up on TV. That was my babysitter, to the point where I remember distinctly that it had been like 3 or 4, because I was still living at a specific apartment in Chicago. And
All right.
the first letters I remember drawing out on the sand with a stick, because we had the apartment and next door was an old lot that used to have a building, but then they tore it down. So it's just rubble and sand. And I sat there and I spelled out HBO in giant bubble letters, right? So that should give you a bit of an idea of how much TV kind of played in my growing up. And ever since then, like, it's a big love, right? as far as like wrestling then came later when I was maybe like
Okay.
in second or third grade. It's always been in my environment because when we had a chance to, so I'm Mexican and got family down in Mexico, and
All right.
we had a couple of opportunities when I was young to go visit, and lucha libre was just big. They were huge lucha libre fans, but not I wasn't. I've never sat through matches or anything. It was just you wrestle with your cousins. They put some masks on, and you're like, go at it, and we're just like, right,
Yes.
for the entertainment of the adults. And so, but it wasn't until like second grade where we got cable. That's what it was. And so we had the
All right.
USA Network, and I would watch like Saturday morning, but just little clips again in between Saturday morning cartoons. But it wasn't like I was sitting there watching it. But the ice cream bars were there, right? The video games were there. Hulk Hogan, Warrior, and superstars of that nature were in the zeitgeist, right? It was very big at the time. Um, but it wasn't until third grade where we would get out of school a little early, and a friend of mine, he had the keys to his house because his sister wouldn't show up till like 4, and his old man wouldn't show up till like 5 or 6 later. But we'd always show up like at, I don't know, I want to say like 2:30. I forget what time school back in third grade was the length of it, but we'd get like home an hour early before all the adults, and so we'd rummage through his brother's comic books, right? So we'd read some of those, and then he had a bunch of wrestling tapes that he would record. And I remember the first like real wrestling event slash match that I saw was Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 12, right? The Iron Man
Oh,
match. And I just remember even just remember that vignette, the Boyhood Dream vignette, right? Where we're just like, man, like it just, whoa, as a third grader, I'm just like, I want this guy to win. Like, yeah. But it's weird because we also knew that kind of Bret Hart was also kind of a good guy. So it was a little weird. But
yeah.
of course, back then I didn't know anything about the wrestling psychology. And so that's what really solidified my love for wrestling. So from third grade all the way until like I was, I don't know, maybe in high school. Because then in high school I started like really playing music and getting way more into music. And
Okay.
after like the invasion angle, shortly after I kind of fell off on wrestling. Um, so though that pretty much from my childhood to high school was what, and I was already doing karaoke machines with my old man, or he would buy a karaoke machine, but I would like use the tapes and record with the microphone. I'd record with sorry, I would play the Super Nintendo WWF Raw, and they had the themes when you would select your character, and I
Dang.
would record the theme song on a tape, right? Pause it, loop it, go back again, record it for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then at the time I didn't have any wrestlers, so I made them out of paper, and I'd sit there and like play the music and have their entrances, and then eventually when I actually started collecting actual figures, then I would like set up stages, right? I would use my dad's big CD box and just flip it around and find things that would work as a ramp and use CD cases for entrances. And really at first started in simple and then again still playing the music. But then a few years later, PlayStation came around and I had the Game Shark. And so in the Game Shark, you were able to access the backend files, so like the cutscenes. And it was not the first SmackDown, but the second SmackDown. I think it's called Know Your Role, where they didn't do the entrances coming out of the actual entrances and they show the crowd or whatever. It was just them, their Titantron video in the background, and then just them, doing their thing. And so I had access to those Titantron videos. So then I set up like a little TV in the back, and I would. At the time, I had some really just crude editing skills where I would run the PlayStation to the VCR. Or sorry, at first I played it straight from the PlayStation, but the video was only like 30 seconds. I was like, I need a longer entrance, especially with like The Undertaker, right? You need a good 6-minute video. And so I sent the PlayStation to the VCR and just kind of paused it, looped it as many times as I could. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure I had 2 VCRs at the time. Once I recorded that part, I would play the videotape, send it to the other VCR, but the audio input would be from the CD player, right? And I would play. I'm pretty sure at that point I had like WW the Volume 2, maybe 3 at the time. Definitely was and 3, sorry 3, but it was before 4. And so I would play the music, and then I would have my own like Titantron video, and then I'd go back to the original little TV by the stage, pop in, grab one of the VCRs, pop in the tape, and then record on a little VHS-C video camera my entrances with my figures. Um,
Yes.
which is dope because so one of the beautiful people that help us out at MAW, Red Cameron, I think Schultz. I don't know if that's his, man. I'm sorry, brother. I love you, but I don't know if I pronounced that right. So sorry, but he he's definitely part of the MAW family, and I come to find out he has a YouTube channel where he's doing that. But I think it's, if I remember correctly, because I've seen a handful of his videos, it's more like almost stop motion, right? So
Okay.
like, and he's got his own entrances, he's got his whole arena, he's got the camera work, the entrance, like it's dope. And I'm just like, wow, this is way better than what I was doing for sure. Um, and
Yeah, these
but
kids these days are lucky, man, with technology and everything. Like,
well, the fact that you can just download their Titantron video instead of having to sit there and loop it all the time.
yeah, it's amazing. It's no wonder you ended up doing what you're doing, man. That's an amazing
Yeah,
story.
yeah. Because and then whatever I did music, and then come to find out there's a huge wrestling. I didn't know. I'm from Chicago, and when I moved out to Minnesota 5 years ago, or Minneapolis, I didn't realize the rich history of
I
wrestling.
don't know if you're cutting out or if it's me.
Oh, I don't. I can still hear you fine. Maybe my internet connection's bad. Damn it! I'm in the basement, which is why
Hold
I'm
on
all
a second.
So can you still hear me? I don't know. The feed on my end
No,
is
you were
fine.
doing all right earlier. It was doing fine earlier. It's just cutting out now. I'm not able to hear you.
Okay, here. Sorry, my bad. See if I can adjust on my.
Oh, you're good. The audio's starting to come back here.
Yeah, sorry. It
You're
could
good.
be.
It was
I don't
kind
know
of.
if it's my connection too, because I'm in the basement. That's why I'm all bundled up because it's damn cold in here, man. But
Yeah, you're going good now. You're good now.
cool. Yeah, but
Yeah.
so yeah, wrestling was something I got into by accident. Actually, I was not planning at all to do any video production for wrestling. That was just not. Again, I didn't know the rich history that Minnesota has with just wrestling history, but also just the current
Right.
state of the amount of promotions and workers that are out there, man. It's amazing and just damn beautiful, I've got to say.
Absolutely, man. We are really lucky, as I've been able to branch out and meet people from different areas. We are really lucky to have the amount of promotions running in, Minnesota and the surrounding states areas. Yeah, really blessed to have so many shows going on all over the place. Really,
Yeah,
all over the whole world. It's really amazing to take it all in. But yeah, grateful here and the history, man. The AWA and whatnot. Me and Andrew were kind of discussing that a little bit as well.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, Vern Gagne was on the first wrestling program that was ever televised.
Dang.
And pretty sure it was here in Minnesota. Don't quote me on that one, but I do remember
Yeah, I mean, if you
watching
look
it.
really back even before Vern Gagne, to the roots of like the farm kids and the actual like roots of pro wrestling and whatnot, in the late 1800s, arguably started here, Minnesota, Iowa area, arguably anyway. But
Yeah, but the current state too, like you said, Wisconsin, North Dakota, or is it South
yeah, the
Dakota? I
amazing
think it's
talent. I
all.
think MAW's been a great example of that. They've been, constantly bringing in a stream of like, not only just, local Minnesota people, but the regional people from the different areas. And then for these bigger events and everything, these last couple of years have really brought in the world class talent from everywhere. So yeah, it was great to see like a world class talent, like an ECW legend, like Masato Tanaka, looking great at his age. Like,
Dude,
there's going to be much left of an old man, Masato Tanaka, but
especially taking those chair
and that
shots, man.
was,
Oh,
yeah, still shaking him off and bringing it. Super excited for that. Um, what kind of went in? I don't know if you're breaking up, freezing up, or if maybe it's on my end. Hold on, let me check. All right. Double check, see if you're with us. What kind of went into your preparation and everything for Grand Slam 5? Uh, or what did your role all encompass as video producer? Were you able to like help with the layout of the staging and everything, or what did all that encompass?
It's a circus, man. There ain't no plan. There's nothing. Um,
Yeah.
so normally, so with Grand Slam at this point, it's been this is 5. This is the 3rd one I believe I've been involved with.
Okay.
And so we already know it's going to be a big one, but the majority of the planning is coming from Women of Nation folks, Dave, Eli. Ooh, excuse me. Shout out to Drake because I know Drake Disorderly did a lot of work on this one. I'm sure there's a lot of people
Nice.
that I haven't personally met, but that go into kind of putting all the like chairs, selling tickets, all really
Absolutely, man. To
the
pull
bulk
off
of it.
something that scale, yeah,
Yeah,
it takes a lot of people.
so lots of love to all of them. So on my end, really, I've done so many shows at this point that I kind of have my system down, not only in kind of setup, but how what I'm capturing, right? And it's more of just like, okay, what am I working with? If I can get into the venue early enough on the day of, luckily this time we were able to go the day before and set up, so I had a good idea, kind of look. And believe it or not, the stage was actually a last minute curveball. And I don't know if I should say this necessarily, only because I might misquote it, but I think it was Rocco's Pizza that ended up um, donating or buying, or being able to bring the stage out. It was a last
Okay.
minute addition. It definitely was not something that we knew weeks ahead of time. Like, oh, we're gonna have stage. I think I think Dave mentioned it a few days before because we did have a production meeting where we're just going through logistics and what time setup, how we're gonna get in, and things like that. And I'm pretty sure Dave had mentioned it, but we didn't really realize the scope of what he was like really talking about. And then so the day before, Dave's trying his best to like explain like, well, they're gonna have a ramp that's gonna go from here all the way straight to the ring, and I think it's a 14-foot ramp, and then we're gonna have like some pipe and drape here. And we're like, okay, cool. What time are they coming to set up? Oh, they're coming tomorrow at 10 o'clock or whatever. And I'm just like, damn it. Like, so for me, that sucks because I can't run any cable at all because there's too many variables of where I may have to move or end up being because I have to have electricity. I was trying to plug into the sound system within the gym, so that kind of limited myself. And hard cam too. Where am I putting hard cam? Because I have plenty of cabling, but do I have, I don't know, 5, 6, 700 feet of cabling? Like because it was all the way. Because that was another thing too. Where it's like, where are we going to put hard cam? Like all of a sudden we have this stage, and I remember one of the ideas was like, oh well, maybe we'll have commentary and the camera on stage because the picture that we saw was kind of like those festival stages. I don't know the exact sizes, but I know you've worked on some of these events where it's just like where they have like a festival or something. That's musician act, just a
That
nice
would be
big
cool.
right, nice big square stage, and then you got the ramp that goes. But
Almost WWE level. Get to run out on each side, kind of.
exactly. But then come to find out, it wasn't that at all. It was just kind of a platform, So we had two, or I should say, the lighting guys. Which man, I'm forgetting their names because they're actually the same ones that did Wilmer Mania 2021 when we did the auditorium, and then they
Okay.
did Wilmer Mania. No, sorry, that was 2022, I think. And then we did the Mail Civ or not the Mail Civic Center, the Wilmer City Civic Center, and they came
Okay.
out again. So the same people that did those lights at the Wilmer Mania shows are the ones
Nice, dude.
that were brought in for this. And man, I feel like an asshole for not remembering
Yeah,
their
they really
names
knock it
or
out the
their
park.
company. Yeah, because they're dope. They're super awesome to work with.
Sure, I'll
But it,
look them up. We'll put them in the.
yeah,
We'll tag them in the.
I know I have
Well,
like his business card somewhere because I remember the first Wilmer Mania we exchanged information. But yeah, but again, it was kind of a curveball. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So I really just kind of loaded up my gear, left it there, and I was like, you know what? I'll worry about it tomorrow. Like once they get that stage set up, then I can really think about where I'm going to place everything. Right. And so it is, if anything, it's more mental prep because again, I already have my system, I have my gear, I have my cases, I know exactly where everything's at for the most part, not always, but because after a show, I usually just dump everything. It's like, right? But for the most part, like before a show, I'll definitely go through each case, make sure everything's with the power cords are with every device. My cables are here, XYZ. Check off those lists. And so it's really the venue that really makes it both challenging and exciting, because it's exciting because it keeps you on your toes. You're like, it really gets you thinking, like, okay, well, I've done this so many times and understand the setup. I know what needs to come here. I have my switcher or whatever, or even if I'm not cutting live, let's just say I'm just capturing an event. I'm still I'm still recording the commentary. I still have certain things out, right? And when I'm not cutting live, it's a lot easier because I'm flexible, right? I'm not tied. The camera's not tied to a cable. Cool, I'm good. If anything, it's more. I always try to provide a monitor in the back for all the workers. So
Yeah,
depending
that
on
was really cool. I love that. And it
yeah,
was
so
really my first time being backstage. But yeah, that was another great feature, man. Having those screens, it was cool. Everybody was really gathered around those screens back there, just cheering them on. Everybody coming back.
yeah,
It was really
the only thing I completely forgot is like they do have specific screens that I have do have little built-in speakers, but they're really shitty. So I was like, oh wait, they can't hear anything back there. So, so you can see the show, which is great, but you couldn't hear the commentary or anything like that, which is fine. Like because we've had plenty of shows where there's no room for monitors. Like we've done breweries, we've done parking lots, we've done state fairs, right, or county fairs, I should say. And you don't always have the luxury of being able to set up a monitor. But if I can, if anything, when I'm not cutting live, that's probably the more thinking that I'm doing. Okay, where's the monitors, and do I have enough cabling to like go back there? But from 2021, I started with them the summer of 2021 in July. I fine tuned my gear, right, as far as what I need. Even something as simple as so when I first started, just had two or one camcorder and two like little hand cameras that I would have stationary, and then I'll have the moving cam for myself, and then I had I believe a little digital mixer that I record all the commentary because I can just stick a USB stick, press record, good to go, and then add it later in
nice.
post, right? But then it evolved to okay, I want to have some monitors where I can send the hard cam feed because again, I'm not at this point. I'd say the only ones that we cut live or try to cut live because we've had so many issues with certain equipment, but it's like Heart of a Warrior, Grand Slam, Nerd and Alcon, and High Stakes is kind of like the four main ones that we try to cut live, right? Because we actually want to get a fast turnaround so that we can throw it up on Fight or wherever the destination is.
Mhm.
Um, but the luxury of not cutting live again is the flexibility of not having your cameras tied to cables. So the only one I have to worry about is the hard cam, right? So the hard cam is the one that I actually run a cable to wherever my setup is. And at some point, I was like, okay, I want my commentators to have a couple monitors. I want to send one to
Nice.
Gorilla somewhere where maybe Eli can see, and then
Nice.
do one in the locker room for all the workers, right? So then so again, I like had so many different ways of doing it, but then I finally found a little box where it's like, okay, cool, it's a HDMI splitter. You get the HDMI input and it actually splits it four ways, but it's got two HDMI and then two Cat 5 extenders. So the cool thing about HDMI is I can leave that one close to my setup and feed the two monitors that I have for the commentators, right?
All
Where
right.
they're just seeing the hard cam, so nothing fancy or whatever, except for again for Grand Slam because I'm cutting live. I actually did send the
Okay.
program feed with the graphics and everything, which was another actually new thing of doing graphics like the day of versus doing all that in post production. So it adds another layer of fuckery on that end, right?
Wow, dude.
um, but then yeah, so cool. But then the Cat 5, the cool thing about Cat 5 is HDMI has your regular HDMI cable has about just 50 feet of length before
Okay.
you have to get some kind of repeater or some kind of signal booster, right? Or you can buy a little bit of a more expensive cable with like HDMI fiber or high speed where you actually can run, I think closer to 150 feet, maybe. I don't know the
Okay.
exact. I'm sure I've read it in books so many times, but my
Yeah.
memory. There's a reason why my son calls me Mr. Forgetful, right? Or nickname me Mr. Forgetful. But but the cool thing with Cat 5 is you actually can run that up to just about a little over 200 feet without
All right.
needing any other kind of signal boost or anything, just a straight run, which is great because then those I can send to the back because it's hit or miss where the locker room is going to be. Is it going to be right by
Yeah.
the ring, or is it no, not Steele County, the Rice County Fair, where the locker room is like a good 3-minute walk. I'm not even kidding. It's like down here's the ring, everyone's sitting around, and you have to like cut across the little walkway, and then there was actually a stage there where there was a live band playing, which was dope. But then you have to pass the stage, and then you have to pass a couple stands, and then you make a right, and there's the bathroom. But then you have to make a left to actually get into the locker room or whatever.
Yes.
So I'm like, I'm not running anything back there, right? So if anything, I put like a little monitor behind the actual curtain. Uh, but
Nice.
but what was fun about that is like, of course, everybody missed their cues. And people's music's playing for like 3 minutes because they're, first you have to get word like, hey, you're up next, right? And they try their best to keep tabs of like what's going on in the ring. Okay, cool, they just finished. 5 minutes, 3 minutes, send you out. But again, when it's that long of a distance, it's kind of difficult to communicate. Um, but that's the show that Paul Burr came out on a golf cart.
Oh.
So again, the locker room was so far that we had every so often we had the festival folks come in checking in on us and stuff. And Paul's like, "Hey man, can you give me a ride to the entrance or something?" Again, I wasn't there, so I don't know the exact conversation, but essentially
Yes.
he's like, "Let me jump on this cart," and they're like, "Oh yeah, sure, come through." And so he comes out, and I remember just capturing him. He's like, first he's hanging out in the back, and he's just like, "Yeah, what's up?" And, and the dude's like 7 foot tall, so he's like over this golf cart, and then they come into through the entrance, but then the wheel gets caught on the MAW curtain, and and so they sit there for like 1 or 2 minutes before Paul just like, all right, I'm just gonna jump out. I'm gonna jump out. And sure enough, and then he finally made it to the ring. But yeah, it was pretty hilarious. I was like, man, okay. So again, going back to the unpredictability of okay, where because honestly, the easiest thing would do is just capture the cameras, capture the audio, and forget about monitors and all that stuff. Like for sure, I did way too much my first year there, because when I was trying to prove myself, right, like really like earn people's respect with my work ethic, and be like, nah, I'm here to help elevate the experience and everyone's work here. Like y'all are putting in a lot of work. Like I want to show you too that I'm down with it. Like I'll
Oh
put in
yeah.
just as much work. And but eventually it became a lot because for one person especially because I used to hang up two monitors on the side of the entrance because they had obviously the MAW curtains and stages coming, and again this is after pandemic or not pandemic, sorry, lockdown, right? So
All right.
slowly MAW was getting those gears rolling, and especially with the festivals, there was no space for elaborate stages or anything like that. So we put up some curtains, and maybe if we have some side curtains to kind of block off, so that at least the dudes or the workers got somewhere to kind of stand before going in there. Then cool, we're all set. But then I came in, I'm just like, well, what if we had a couple monitors and just throw up the graphics of the show? I've got the monitors, I've got the stands, ain't no thing. It's just a matter of setting them up. So I used to do that. But then that just became too much. Like that, it's just especially like trying to like, man, I wrecked my little Nissan Sentra because like I'm hauling equipment. You'd be surprised what you can fit in there, man. Like I've packed that thing to the brim with equipment.
Yes.
Uh,
I bet,
it's
man. Just the unpredictability from like venue to venue. It's so I can't imagine what sort of nightmare you go through with all that.
well, it's a nightmare and it's a dream. It's like it's a double-edged sword because again, it keeps me on my toes. It keeps me thinking. It keeps me always reanalyzing. Okay, what did I do or like a lot of self-reflection. What did I do? What did I do well? What can be improved on, right? And what just isn't going to work because like as much as I would want to do all kinds of crazy things as far as like I like OVW when I saw the wrestlers documentary and they have their setup where they're talking headsets in the back, they have their monitors, even though it sucks because whatever. Sometimes I don't know if you watch the documentary, but there's times where the feed would go, and Allison was like, "What the fuck? Where's my feed?" Right? Like that. I'm just like, "Ooh, I know that feeling for sure." Like it's happened to me at a show where everything's working perfectly, and all of a sudden, like, what happened to the feed? And I'm just like, damn, I feel that.
Figure it out on the fly and whatnot.
Yeah, that hit home. But but again,
Yeah.
seeing their setup and the ability to do that, I'm just like, oh, that's dope. Like, I really would love to cut live. I would love to have a consistent space, which would be even if that's a dream come true, which we kind of had with Warriors, which was great. But that show was
Yeah.
being produced in conjunction with the live events, and essentially the first few Warrior tapings had a budget. I think we had a couple of sponsors, but then after a certain period, like there was no sponsors. Right at that point, that's when Eli. Um, I can see Eli was getting overwhelmed because we that year, that's 2022 was last year. We ran, so on file I have 27 shows. Right,
Wow.
that's what I have on file. Or let me actually, no, let me bring that back a little bit. I think it's 24, 25 shows. But then I know they did like an additional 3 or 4 that I was not at.
Okay.
Right. So that summer they were running hard. We were all running just, but and then at certain point in July, August, maybe late July, early August was when we started. No, it might have been a little earlier. It might have been just after 4th of July. That's when we started producing the Warrior Show, which was Sundays, right? So between July and September, because the summer shows are usually um, June, right? June till about like maybe mid September and end of September, depending on how busy they are. And then they kind of take a few weeks off, and then we have Nerd NowCon, which they've done every year for the last 3 years. I think I produced 3 of those shows. And so you have your summer schedule, and then all of a sudden we're throwing in this new show, right? Because that's when we had came across the CW deal, which was cool. The opportunity to be on network
Nice.
television. And
Yeah.
so we're like, man, we had talked about it. Me, Eli, Dave, Brian, Travis Sharp, who was in those conversations, and there's a couple other people.
Okay.
Joe Chupek, the AWA producer, awesome dude. He was the
Nice.
initial producer for those first few tapings, right? And I
Wow.
remember him telling him like,
Very cool.
or he was like, I hope you know what you're getting yourselves into. And everyone's like, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's going to be a lot of work. We understand. It's something we got to do, and we got the
Yeah.
summers. We have the other half of the summer to still complete because at that point we're full blown summer, festival circuit, and but
Yeah, it's a hectic schedule too, man. It gets pretty wicked there with like multiple shows each weekend. And
there's a couple times where they'd have a show in the morning and then one in the afternoon and then one on Sunday. So a triple header in just one weekend. Um, and again, that was 2022. That was the big one. I know they did it again this year, but I actually Wilmer Mania of this year, which was April, if I remember correctly, that was my last show with them because I had to take a break because I got moved into another role at work in my my shoot job, and
okay.
just took all my time. And then it was just like, so I just can't do it. Like, I'm sorry, I really like I need to focus on here. And so I essentially just did nothing from April all the way till Nerd and Ocon is when
All
Dave
right.
called. Dave called me back and he's like, "Hey man, you available for Nerd and Ocon?" I was like, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I am." Like, I love Nerd and Ocon. It's a fun show,
Nice.
man.
Yeah, I love that venue down there in Rochester, that Mayo Civic Center.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then I definitely foresee us one day. I don't know how soon. I don't want to. I don't want to jinx it or anything, but I definitely foresee it one day. Definitely start not only selling out that bottom half, which usually the bottom half is what gets filled, but it's that top half. That's for me is kind of like I don't know, to use a really dumb analogy, my Moby Dick, right? My whale is to fill those damn seats at the top. Because
Absolutely.
as a producer, I'm just like, man, that sucks because there's some decent wrestling because last year was a little difficult because this year's actually show was way better, but last year's show was, to be completely honest with myself, and it had nothing to do with the workers or anybody, but everyone was burnt out at that point. Everybody, the workers, again, that's Warriors and Festival here, right? So we're
All
pulling
right.
double
All right.
duty. And so by the time we hit Nerd and Alcon, you can just feel it, man. We're just like, all right, Nerd and Alcon. I think there's maybe one show in between that one, and then there's Grand Slam, and everyone's like, all right, Grand Slam. And then we take that break, right? Like that's what they were looking forward for. And
I bet, man. That's got to be grueling, man.
yeah. So I'm gonna say, if I'm gonna be honest, as a producer who's looking at everything, not just visual, but like the energy. What energy are you creating with the content that you're putting out into the world? And I was like, I could have been better. Um, I believe that. Well, I mean, me personally, that's probably why I've never gone out of my way to try to release a lot of that stuff from last year. just because again, the wrestling was good. I think I said decent earlier. That's kind of a shitty thing to say because no wrestling, at least from MAW, is decent. Everyone always works their works their ass off and put in a lot of work. But yeah, it was, man, it was a grueling year. It really was. But it was fun, super fun.
Oh,
20,
yeah.
20,
Well,
24 shows, 25. That's a lot.
we got about 5 minutes left. I want to wrap this up. We had a question earlier. Somebody was wondering. We heard you got Mick and Andrew got you to crack up at some point,
During the show,
during the show. Is there a story behind that? The
honestly, I mean,
MAW Grand Slam exclusive behind the scenes here, right before the premiere.
that's a good question. Honestly, I can't remember because I am.
I can only imagine when you explain like all the levels of things that you had to think about at the same time. I was just like, good Lord. But at the same time, like you said, it must be a very cool feeling to be like, I am in control of like helping capture this vision. And it's
And that's what it is. Like it's not even like being in control necessarily, because for me it's not a control thing. It's about an elevation, right? What can
nice.
I do to help
Nice.
elevate what they're doing, not only behind the scenes, because there's a lot of work that goes behind, not just from the workers, but from everybody, the people that are putting up chairs, the people that are taking tickets, everybody on all levels. But then you have the work in the ring that's really, again, that's what people come for, right? At the end of the day, that's the show, that's the
Yeah.
entertainment. So, and they put a lot on the line, their bodies, their mental health, right? Like there's all kinds of things that people just leave. Once they pass that curtain, they leave it behind, and wrestling is their outlet to just really live their best life. And if you're going to do that, and again, not a knock to MAW or any independent promotion, because I know it's tough out there to truly turn a profit at these shows. But when these workers are not getting paid a whole lot to come out there, and where every bump counts, what can I do to make it worth, or I don't even say worth their while, but to capture that moment in time for them that they can take and use it on a reel, or even look back on it 20, 30 years from now and like, that's what, mijo, come over here, come watch your dad, come watch your dad wrestle. This is
Right.
what I used to do. And if I can make it look good, make it sound good, make it feel good, right? Like, which again, for me, I'm not going to say all my content is like, yeah, I knocked it out of the park, but at least the intention behind it is, there's a lot of love, because in the company, this specific company, I can't say any. I worked with AWF for a little bit, but I've never worked with any other company. So I'm not gonna say, so specifically MAW. There's just a lot of love there, and
Mm.
there's a lot of good, beautiful people working their asses off to do what they love for whatever reasons. There's always a million reasons to be in that ring, or behind the camera, or being a ref, or being the one that's just bringing in the ring and throwing those planks on there, and then throwing the canvas on there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just it's a beautiful thing, and I'm just super glad and thankful that I was able to get into that family. Because again, I'm originally from Chicago, born and raised. I've
Okay.
just been in Minnesota for 5 years, and I didn't expect, all my friends and family are back there. People that I've known since kindergarten, people that I've known since second grade to third grade. Like, I'm not gonna sit there and say like I'm Mr. Popular. I have a million friends, but I definitely have a close group of friends that I've known for so long, and that's what I miss from Chicago. I love Chicago, but I don't necessarily miss Chicago. I miss my family and friends, and so I didn't expect to really make like best friends here. I expected to make friends. I'm a personable person. I got no problem having a conversation with people, but I'm not going to go out of my way to build a strong relationship, because life takes a lot out of you, and to share yourself with people takes a lot of energy from you, mental, physically, everything. And so you got, I mean, this is just my personal opinion. Like, you kind of got to be selective, or not you, sorry, me personally. I have to be a little selective on who I spend my time and energy on, because sometimes I don't even have enough for myself, right? Like, how can I fill my cup or hold my water and yours at the same time? Sometimes you can't, but sometimes you can. You can be that person. You can be that inspiration. You can be. and I work my ass off for not just MAW, but for all those workers. Like I said, that sacrifice so much. Like, dude, I love all those people. That's all I can say. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. So I think that went a little longer than I wanted to.
Oh man, that was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here tonight with us.
Thank
This
you,
is like
brother.
the
Thank you.
perfect. I was like getting goosebumps once again. I was just like, man, that whole night, from the intro with the native dancers coming in and the powwow drums and everything,
It's gonna
like just
be
genuine goosebumps throughout that whole night. And,
it's
your
gonna be a
beautiful
good
speech.
show, and I'm not gonna say it, but there because I didn't even know it myself at first. But so I just want to say we opened up all our shows, our post production shows with the opening prayer. So the same opening prayer they do at Grand Slam, which I'm sure there's a whole deeper meaning to it. But I remember I asked
Sure.
Terry Goodsky, the dude that leads the prayer.
Yeah.
He's like he's praying to the different to different energies. I know there's like I know he had gone into like some detail, but I'm gonna lie, like again, I'm Mr. Forgetful. But it's essentially an opening prayer to bless the space and really just open yourself up to love and good energy, and like we're gonna have a good time. It'll be a safe space. It's gonna be a great time. So we add that to all the beginning of our shows. That
Nice.
the first 20 seconds is that opening prayer. So if you didn't know, now you know, because that's when you're on a journey with us. You had decided to watch our content, so we're gonna give you a safe, loving space where you're gonna enjoy professional wrestling. So the reason I brought that up, not only to help bring that to people's attention, but there is an Easter egg in there that I didn't even know was there until one time I was paying attention, like really paying attention to it. And it sucks because I kind of want to give it away, but I just feel like it's one of those things that
Nice.
10, 15, 20 years from now, if this content still lives, I think it'd be a really cool thing to be like, oh wow, I did not know that. Like I didn't notice that. So I'm not gonna give it away, but I do want to put it out into the universe that there is an awesome Easter egg in one of those shots that just I think pays a lot of respect to not only the wrestling community but the indigenous community and to those who truly love the sport of professional wrestling. Like it's there. You just have to look. It's almost blowing in the wind to sort of kind of say, like, so and
Ooh,
thank
I
you,
want to shut
Mr.
this. I want to
Fredrickson.
shut this
Thank
off
you.
and go check it out now. No.
First 20 seconds, that's how I hook you. So, and that's another thing. Sorry, I don't even think we talk too much about Grand Slam itself, but
Oh,
it's
it's
gonna be
all
fun.
good,
It's
man.
2
This is
hours
great.
long, so strap in for some
Nice.
badass wrestling, especially that Fatal 4 Women of
Oh
Nations
yeah.
Cup match. That's another good one. So,
All right,
thank
let's
you.
jump into Meltzer
Appreciate
mode
it.
and let's give out all the spoilers to the whole card right now.
Do it.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm not. We're not that kind of pro wrestling journalists around here. Chavo, I want to thank you so much for joining us here, State
Thank
of
you,
Pro
brother.
Wrestling Live. Fans, jump over to MAW Live, about to premiere Grand Slam 5. MAW, the man who produced it right here, sitting with us. Any last words before we go?
No, not really. Just that I love everybody. That if you enjoy the content and you support MAW because you just love wrestling, thank you, because that means a lot to everybody that's involved. So, love you all.
Absolutely, absolutely. Much love to MAW, Chavo, everybody tuning in tonight. Hope you enjoy MAW Grand Slam 5. Truly just 2 hours of straight main event after main event after main event. You might even see my ugly face out there running around.
MAW Grand Slam 5.
Ooh,
Peace, y'all. Thank you.
dang. Let's roll that a couple more times on the way out. Fans, enjoy some snacks from support the supporters. MAW, thank you so much. Everybody, Eli, David, everybody, all the way down the line to the janitor.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody. Enjoy Grand Slam 5 on MAW Live YouTube channel. Woo! Where's that beautiful what was that button you pressed? Yes, yes, yes. No, no. This is my new hitchhiker finger. I don't